Welcome to Hope is Here. My name is Greg Horn, and continuing just a powerful week with Tom and Amber Lyons. Just two wonderful people, a wonderful couple. And if you missed any of our programs, I would encourage you. We started with talking about their precious son, Jonathan, and unfortunately went for a nap. And at the age of 3 months old, he took his last breath here on earth. It happened 5 years ago and still hurts. And for some of you listening, you've had a wound and it still hurts. You wonder if it'll ever quit hurting. And maybe it doesn't, but God is still there, and that's what Tom and Amber have shown, how God has showed up in so many ways. And man, you'll just be blessed. I know I have. You may have to get the Kleenex out, but that's okay. God gave us tears to heal the wounds in our hearts, and He promised He'd never leave us or forsake us. And I really believe you would be blessed if you would listen to these 14-minute programs, or maybe share them with somebody else who's been through a tragic loss and still hurting several years later, and think, will I ever get better? They'll be greatly encouraged. You can find these programs that we've done this week already simply at hopeishere.today. That's hopeishere.today, or you can find Hope is Here on iTunes, YouTube, Podbean app. So check them out. You'll be blessed. But we ended up our program yesterday, and we were talking about grieving when you lose a loved one. And unfortunately, our culture, we just don't give much people time to grieve. And our microwave, you can order something, have it at your house the next day from Alaska, just instant credit society. And we talked about taking time to grieve. And also, Tom, you were starting to tell a great story about how, I say this a lot on Hope is Here, that God never wastes a hurt if we allow Him. And God allowed you all to minister through your pain and heartache to somebody else.
Yeah, so we had been met in our grief by folks who had previously had loss and shared with that. A professor of mine at the seminary, and then in the year that then followed, some dear friends of ours. My wife had been friends with her for
since college.
So a good 15 years at this point. Yep. They'd been in the same sorority together, and Amber, my wife, was in their wedding, and I had attended the wedding, and they were actually now in our community at the seminary, and he was working on a PhD, or getting ready to start a PhD program, and this family lost their 3-year-old. So this was a family that we were very close to. They had four kids, and they lost their only daughter. And I'm not going to go through their story; it's theirs to tell. But we were able to be a resource for them in the midst of their loss and in the midst of their grief. And it is a sad honor that we got to be able to share that.
Yeah, I remember Tom and I just having that look of, we've got to be there. And as soon as we got to the door, the mom just looked at me and we just embraced, and she's like, I hate that you know what this feels like. And we didn't need to say any more words than that. And there was just an understanding, but the power in being able to grieve with somebody was profound. And so, it's just a broken world, and I wish there weren't these tragedies. But I'm thankful for when the church shows up and ministers the way I think God's heart would. His heart breaks just as much. He's saddened by the same things we're saddened by. And, so I think it's just reassuring when He uses us to help bring His kingdom and help bring His presence.
Yeah, that's good. A lot of times people say, God, I want you to use me, man. Let me be a blessing to somebody. Yet most of the time it's not the way we envision. Right. Yeah. And yet you all chose out of this incredible pain of losing your 3-month-old son. Just went down to take a nap like most 3-month-old children do, and then just unfortunately didn't wake back up. And who better to help somebody who's had cancer than somebody that's been through cancer? Who better to help somebody that's been through a divorce, such as yours truly here, than somebody that's been through a divorce? Who better to help somebody who's lost a precious young child than somebody has? And like you said, you didn't have to say any words to them, did you, when you showed up at that doorstep, did you?
Nope. There was an understanding and a combined grief that was just palatable. And, and it's been for us, one of the small gifts that's kept giving about that has been, we reflect on our journey of grief back and forth through, an email or a text or a shared, a shared image. All the little things when you have a loss like that catch you off guard, that you didn't see it was going to rear its ugly head. And so, just looking at how are we processing grief from, we spent a lot of time on kind of the initial few days, but what's it like as you walk in this day in and day out? And, finding folks that you can confide in that are trustworthy is hugely helpful.
Yeah.
While also making sure that you're not dumping on everybody.
Right.
And so I try to make sure that I'm transparent to say, during this process, like, I'm not okay today, or this really has hit me hard right now. Mm-hmm. But also realizing they're not the person that's going to help me walk the walk at that moment. Not everybody, not my coworker, not the person at McDonald's, not the person at the, doesn't mean that my day is honestly any better when I'm interacting with them.
Right.
Just means that they're not the right person for me to pour my heart out to. And so it's kind of been neat to have this friend who on those tough days, and I have a couple really good close friends where I can send a text message or I can say, hey, you got time for a 5-minute phone call? I just need a little pep talk. I just need a listening ear to help me get the strength. Mm-hmm. And so I would say accepting that it's okay to not be okay.
Yes.
Is a powerful freedom in the process of grief. And to having that transparency to say, I'm not okay. I'm not going to dump on you, but just recognize I'm not okay, or here's where my boundaries and limitations are today. And that's been helpful.
Absolutely. And also, though, that you reached out to someone, not expecting them to have the answers, but just to say, hey, and just even respond with a text saying, man, I'm sorry, praying for you right now. I mean, just gives you kind of a second wind, doesn't it?
It does.
What else have you learned about this through this grieving process from a man's perspective, Tom? I mean, talk to us.
I'm still learning, is what I would say. That it's really easy to stuff this stuff and to not deal with it. And this is something that even today, I'm so while some things went well in how I dealt with this, I had taken a month off of my work and my school to grieve. A month isn't enough time. And so I jumped back in. I had my first publication soon, like that month it landed. And so I jumped back into my work, and there are things that I didn't deal with, and in a sense I'm still dealing with years later, and the repercussions of not handling it well. And so my encouragement would be to find help, and to find those individuals that can speak life into you and that can help mourn with you when you need that. And then likewise, get professional help, folks.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
There's no shame in going to counselors. There's no, it helps to have folks that are aware of the journey and aware of the losses and can help you navigate that own journey. And so,
just like we would go to professionals to help when our son wasn't breathing, we're going to go to professionals who can help me in a constructive and healthy manner understand what I'm processing. Because I have a lot of friends that are great friends and want to help me, but they haven't been equipped effectively. Right. And so friends and folks can sometimes lead you down the wrong path, not even intentionally. So there is some value in having people that are equipped for this kind of a journey.
You only have to read as far as Job to see that. Of friends who, in an attempt to be helpful, are simply not helpful.
Doesn't mean they're bad friends.
Right,
it's just that's not their area of expertise. So when there's a crisis, get the right kind of help, just like you would in a medical world or in any other. If you've got financial issues, you're going to go talk to an advisor. Yes, mechanic.
Mechanic. Yeah, this is huge. I think what you're saying, and 53, and some of the best money I've spent has been on some Christian counseling. Yeah. And, there's friends of mine, one in particular that, I said, the thing for you, I said, I know you don't want to hear this, but it's 1 hour that somebody's focused on listening to you because you got job, family, kids, all that, and you're always giving, but it's 1 hour that's a safe place for you. You can verbally vomit because sometimes that's what you're doing, but also getting some biblical wisdom, some encouragement. And I've spent $53,000 over the years, total, and it's some of the best money I've spent. So, man, I'm like a bobblehead when you all start saying that. Like, yes. So, we've got about 3 minutes left, so I want to give each of you, we'll let ladies go first. Amber, what would you want to say, just to kind of wrap things up here? Is there anything on your heart that you want to say to people today?
Yeah, I really feel impressed. It wasn't initially in the journey of grief that I got this word from the Lord. But when I heard it years later, it was really freeing. And I kept thinking, like, I'm trying to heal through this, or trying to heal, and get back to fullness. And, God one time told me, he said, and I kept saying, heal my broken heart. And God said, no, I'm going to take the pieces of your heart and make a mosaic out of them. And it was like, it was so freeing to not feel like I had to be whole again. And that was powerful for me.
Amen. Wow. Thank you. Tom, for you, sir.
Yeah. To kind of piggyback on that, when you've suffered loss, real loss, you're not going to go back to normal. And so whatever life was before, it's not coming back. And so my advice is simply, it's learning how to move forward in the midst of the loss.
Yep.
And it's learning how to walk with Jesus with that hole in your heart. It's learning to walk forward in that absence. And to do that well. At the end of the day, what it means to follow Jesus is simply to follow him. And we're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to do the wrong thing. We're all going to make bad decisions. We're all going to suffer losses. So whether it's self-inflicted or whether it's something that's happened to you, at the end of the day, it's about journeying well. And so no matter where you are in your journey, it's about getting your feet pointed towards Jesus and continuing to move towards him. And sometimes things are going to happen to us. We're going to suffer losses. And Jesus is going to be there in the midst of us. And it's really easy to kind of get lost in the weeds when that happens. But my encouragement is to find Jesus in the midst of that. Fix your eyes on him. Get your feet pointed towards him. And as well as you can, begin to move towards him, to draw near to him. Because it's in those spaces where we need him the most.
Absolutely. I love the verse. I think it's in James. Tom, you're obviously, it's your area of expertise, but draw near to God, he will draw close to you.
Amen.
And you've heard that here over and over the past 4 days through the tears, still there 5 years later. So I know that there's a lot of people need to hear this. There may be a different type of wound and hurt that you've had, and you've lost hope because you're like, will it get any better? And I want to encourage you that it will, but I love what Tom said, that, there's still a wound there. And I had a friend say to me one time, just said, Greg, just be honest, there's a new normal now in your life.
Right. That's exactly right.
So for some of you, there's a new normal, and that's okay. God will still work through that, but cling to those memories of those loved ones. Journaling is phenomenal. It's a great thing that hasn't been mentioned on the program in a long time, and I've got some of my journals out and reread them at some dark times in my life and seeing where God's been faithful, and it's brought me a lot of hope. But man, I hope that you will share what's been going on the past few days with Tom and Amber Lyons. I know you'll be blessed. Go to our website, hopeishere.today. That's hopeishere.today.
CMI is your full-service human resources provider in Central Kentucky. For 15 years, CMI Human Resources has taken great pride in helping organizations and people work. Whether it's employee handbooks or help in filling a position, no job is too large or too small for CMI. Contact the professionals today at CMI Human Resources, 859-296-2800, or online at cmiconsulting.com.